everybody. Welcome to the Yard Sign. Johnny Torres with you, as always. Better late than never, but thank you so much for joining us on the show. With me, as always, some very familiar faces. We're glad to slowly be getting the group back together again as we adjust to our new gigs, our new surroundings. But we can't thank you enough for watching. And while you're doing so, don't forget to share, like, comment on this broadcast, and also subscribe to the audio version of our broadcast over on our tech overlords at Google, Apple, Spotify, Audible, and Amazon. We appreciate you so much. There's plenty to talk about, as there always is. And we're going to go ahead and first go to the big table and see who's joining us today. Right here next to me, this guy. It's almost it's a.
Which way are we looking? I don't know. I don't know which camera we're looking at.
No, so
that one.
Yeah,
okay.
so it's like a half veteran, half I don't know, draft dodging show.
Why are you looking at me?
We're too young to have been drafted.
I
But,
was not drafted.
No, so Joe Wicker joining us next to Joe, Chris Licata, and of course, as always, an evil David Cabrera.
Hello.
What's going on, fellas?
Why you gotta have three names?
Give me one thing that's Spanish. That's all I'm asking for.
Oh, okay, that's what.
I don't have the accent, nor do I have the papers.
Yeah.
But
He likes to be Hispanic when it's convenient.
oh yeah, when they need that extra body, yes.
When you need those demographics.
I round out
like when Harry and Meghan like to be British when it's convenient.
That's right.
I am not gonna say anything about that whole trashy situation. Oprah, I look for you more.
I blame them for everything that's going wrong in California.
Oh, completely. Ever since they moved to California, it's been a disaster.
I'm pretty sure California was bad before.
They don't have a house in Canada either. Don't they have a place in Canada?
They have a palace.
They have a palace.
It's the monarchy. I mean, come on now.
Well, technically, Canada's still part of.
Technically, they're no longer a part of the monarchy. We will not get into the topic.
No, but they're still reaping all the benefits. I mean, they still get all the security, and they still get.
But they don't get the money.
So, is there security? Is it like SAS or something? Like, what is it?
So,
is it like
when they were in Canada, it was the Canadian government responsibility to supply the security. But now that they're in the United States, it's become a little bit clear.
Don't tell me it's like Secret Service
people.
or State Department.
So what?
Like, don't tell me it's like the U.S. State Department.
No, because
the Canadian government doesn't supply security for celebrities.
The royal family is almost considered like an ambassadors to the country.
That's what I'm saying. So
so that service is provided to embassy individuals. So that's why they had it in Canada. In the United States, I believe that they are paying for their own
private security.
The big issue, though, is
and
Meghan.
How are they paying for it?
There is actually 4 ways that the monarchy. I don't want to talk about this.
Is she getting a stimulus check?
Does
she get a stimulus check?
She's still an American citizen.
Does
she
she
still an American citizen?
But she's over the income level.
When she got
she's over the income level.
She's making way too much money.
Well, according to Republicans in Congress, prisoners are.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
apparently, if you're a felon, you're getting your $1,400 check.
She makes too much. The household makes too much money, so they will not get a stimulus check.
Says the accountant.
All right, so that's enough of that. We definitely talked about that way more than we wanted to. Thank you again, everybody, for watching. We've got, as I said, plenty to talk about. Why? Because the COVID relief bill passed the Senate, and I believe it's about to pass the House. I don't see why it wouldn't pass the House if it passed the Senate. There's obviously problems with it, as you might expect, but this is going to be a big win for Schumer. Very early in his tenure as Senate Majority Leader. And of course, as expected, there's a lot of problems with the Senate version of the bill, and Republicans are already coming out against that. The fact that, it's putting more money out there on the table when a lot of money from the previous bills haven't even been spent. Also, there's this talk about felons, getting a stimulus check in all of this. And then the one part that they seem to have gotten right was obviously salary caps, on some of that stimulus money. But again,
what is the cap? It's like $150K.
No, well, for individuals it's $80,000. For households, I believe it's like $140, $150.
Yeah, I mean,
it's lower than the last cycle.
The last cycle, lower than the last one. Well, the last one was 75. The last one I thought was 75 and 150.
No,
it was 100.
Was it? Okay.
It was 100, and then it tiered off as.
I mean,
you
so
make more.
basically, so come on. I mean, like basically, 90%, what, 75% of the country is probably gonna get
225 million.
225 million out of like 320. I mean, that's a lot. Okay, so
So still
that's a lot of
most.
people.
Yeah, majority of people are gonna get a check of some form unless you owe money to the IRS or any other government agency.
So I heard that even if you owe like back like child support and all that, like you still get the stimulus. They don't apply it or something towards like the. I wouldn't
I've heard
know,
conflicting
but-
reports on
I've
that as
also
well.
heard because I hear that some people it got swiped. Because if your
And it got
your
taken from
account
because they owe
if your
taxes.
account is getting already garnished,
Yeah,
it's
if you
gonna
owe
get
taxes,
swiped
yeah,
no matter
yeah.
what.
Well, hey, so the government's getting to find a way to get the money. I just know that we're printing a lot.
The
of
house
money.
always
The-
wins.
The
Okay.
Treasury is getting looted.
Oh, that's
It's crazy.
for sure.
It's crazy.
That's for sure.
Well, and then isn't there some sort of like automatic renewal here? I mean, some people are saying that this is basically going to be somewhat of a UBI program for the next year.
How is there automatic renewal?
Okay, so we are jumping pretty quickly into this. So right now, these are the basic terms that are coming into the relief bill that's happening, which was passed over the weekend by the Senate of 1.9 billion, which I think is a ridiculous amount.
1.9 trillion.
1.9 trillion because we already have 1.1 trillion from the last bill still sloshing around accounts that have yet to be allocated for funds. But I digress.
It got lost at the Pentagon.
No, it's still.
It's in that building.
Wow.
That building. Just like, I mean,
Look,
a
veterans
big
will
building.
never miss an opportunity
If
to
you-
take a swipe at
if
the
somebody's
you-
gonna like 500 years from now, like they're in the ruins of the
500
like
years.
someone's gonna like go through the rubble of the United States and they're gonna find like a bunker under the Pentagon or something. It's
With
just,
just
be like all this
cash.
money. Like,
All I know is if you know where the phrase red tape comes from, you know what we're talking about. So the biggest provisions so far will be $1,400 checks per adult and child, unemployment. Oh wow, Joe, you're gonna get some.
Hey, making babies,
Look at that. A lot of Republicans are
Yeah.
gonna be happy about that one right there.
making babies.
In Wyoming. Unemployment is going to be at $300 through September 6th. $350 billion is going to go to blue cities, states, and tribes, basically, because they're the ones that have budget issues. $3,000 per kid, 6 through 17, and then $3,600 for kids 0 through 6. And that's where the UBI conversation is coming into play, because that's going to be a whole year. I think until the end of this year
I'm
that
sorry,
they're going to
say
be
that
giving
again
that.
now?
Yeah.
Say that again.
It's going to be $3,000 for kids that are 6 through 17 years old.
For who is this for?
Every kid that you have, they're going to divide 3,000 by 12, and you're going to get that every single month. So you're going to get a small check every month for every
And
kid.
what was interesting about that provision was that was an amendment authored by Romney.
Correct. It was the body of it was.
Oh yeah, because Romney's but he's looking out for the Mormons over there because you got to have like 12 kids, right?
I'm telling you
I mean,
right
no,
now,
I
there's
mean-
some communities
Hey.
gonna make bank on this.
He's
There was no
looking
caps
out,
because
he's looking out
the
for
last
his-
round the last round there was
At
caps
first,
like up
I
to
thought, oh, look at Romney being pro-family, and then I realized, wait a minute, he's from Utah, and
Yeah.
they have a lot of kids.
They're gonna have a lot of mouths to feed. Last one, 170 billion is gonna go to schools, which again, they already have money from the last one. Funny thing with the schools, only about 5% of that money will be given out to schools for this year, and the rest will be given out throughout the years coming forward. And
Up
the
until
last,
when?
I have no idea.
But the bake sale will still be going on, and you will still be expected to buy all of your kids' uniforms.
I am expecting a brand new playground for our elementary
You have
school
way too high
by the
expectations.
time our kids get there. And I don't even have kids yet.
Well, but again, I mean, if the numbers continue to go the direction they're going in, I mean, obviously they're just buying. They're basically trying to just buy off the midterms at this point. I mean, there's no need
Yeah.
Yep.
for them to be.
I don't
funding,
even think
you
that would
know.
be successful. Like
This
I
is
don't
too
think-
early. You don't buy the midterms.
No.
Yeah, but the
I
money,
think- I
but
think the
but
policy
then, but they're going
prescription
to run
here-
on that, and they're going to be like, "Hey, all this money you're getting, we made that happen."
Yep.
And the reason that people got these checks is because we made that happen.
Yeah.
And they're going to say, "Look at the Senate version of the bill. Not a single Republican voted for it because
Yep.
they hate, children
they
and
hate
families
kids,
and,
yep.
and women, and
Yep.
and so again, they're just building the narrative for the midterm elections.
Yeah, you also made inflation go interest
But it
go
hasn't
from
happened yet, but it hasn't-
from
but-
2.5 to like
Has it?
2.9.
And it's tax-free,
It
too.
is going up. The interest rate is starting to move up. That's very interesting to see how
That
that's
needs
going to
to
go. And it's because all this money is coming into the cycle. Again, none of the 1.9 has got in yet. It got through the House, through the Senate. I don't know what the House is going to do. I wouldn't be surprised if you have some progressives, because they wanted a bigger UBI. They wanted more, they wanted an actual $2,000, because they can't count that the 600 from before and the 1,400 now equal the 2,000.
Yeah, but if the Federal Reserve raises the interest rate as it is right now, I mean, I've been talking about this actually all weekend. I mean, we are on the verge of a real estate bubble. We're basically in a bubble. The only reason that it may not pop just yet is because of low inventory. But if you all of a sudden are raising interest rates,
They won't raise
and
rates.
They will if they have a shitty T-sale coming next week. The Treasury is going to start selling bonds, and if they have a shitty cycle, they're going to increase them.
But when you say raise rates, okay, if we're talking about going from 2.25 30-year fixed, to 2.9, like that's not. I mean, I remember.
It's not gonna send
I
shocks through the
remember
system,
buying my
right.
first home at 6.5%. So
Right.
I mean,
Right.
what are we, when we say raise rates? What are we talking about?
What was it? My dad's
if in
was
12
14% in the 80s or 70s, like that.
I
It
mean,
was crazy
don't,
back
don't
in
get
the
me
day.
wrong. If in the course of a year we go from 2 3/4 to 6.5, okay, yeah, like that's significant over
Yeah.
the course of a year. But
I don't
going
think-
up a full point still only represents maybe $50 a month or $100 a month.
Yeah,
on
but
a
it's not the
typical mortgage.
individual investor that's causing that problem. It's people not wanting to buy the bonds that we're
Right,
issuing,
right,
which is
yeah.
going to cause the trickle
Yeah.
effect. Do I agree? I don't agree with Jonathan. I think it's going to, if anything, we're going to see what a decoupling of the real estate market looks like, when some regions are going to be very successful with their real estate and others are going to fall tremendously. People are still moving to New York City. Yes, they're having a very hard time filling in those leases, but people are still moving to New York. California is a whole different
So
conversation.
should I be selling my house or not? I just need to know.
No, I
No.
mean Florida's still growing by
Well, yeah, but then-
I'm supposed to
Where are you
cash
gonna
out.
go?
Should I cash out or
Well,
not?
that's the thing.
You should
can sell
refi.
it,
The problem
but
is,
then
where do you go? That's the problem. Where do you
Well,
go?
that's the thing. Then you got to sit around in a rental property and wait until the market crashes.
And my
to then
my
buy
mortgage is
something
lower than
bigger.
rent. Rent's
Right.
higher. Rent costs more than
Right.
mortgages by a lot.
My mortgage is straight
That's
up
the
cheaper
problem.
than my
By a
rent.
lot.
That's the
Rent's
problem.
expensive.
Well, and again, there's neighborhoods, especially here in Hillsborough County, because they now over doubled the developer impact fees. That they've
Yeah.
now increased the prices by $40,000 in some neighborhoods. So you went from a house that was maybe within reach at about the low 200s to
Right,
maybe
right.
240 on the high end. Now that same house is in the 280s. Almost
Yeah,
pushing
and you
300.
can't- and so you can't. Yeah,
And that's
So-
not sustainable.
Yeah,
That's
you
not
can't-
sustainable.
It's got to be. Well, it seems to me like the problem is, to Johnny's point, is you've got a whole segment of the population that might be looking to buy their first home, and if you think about it, that was like you were trying to buy like a condo for 80 grand, or like your first home for like 100 to 150 maybe, like that was like a nice first home. Those don't exist. So if you can't borrow $200K in Hillsborough County, where are you living?
No, you're renting.
You're not buying, so
You're
that
not
means
buying,
you're
you're
renting.
renting.
But if you're renting for $1,500 to $1,800 to $2,000, depending on
Yep.
how big you're looking.
It's-
I mean, you're
it's-
renting for
it's a-
$1,800 a
It's a
month.
pretty apartment building in downtown Tampa,
Which costs
but that's
more,
going to be a ridiculous
but-
amount. That's like twice a
But
mortgage
rent-
sometimes.
But
Right.
so here's the conundrum that lower, economically speaking, lower class, middle class, maybe even solidly middle class people find themselves in. Even if you have good credit, the cost you can't borrow. If you can't borrow $200,000+, the irony is that what you're going to pay in rent, if you can't borrow the money to get the home, you're going to rent. But what you're going to pay in rent is actually going to be more than you would have been paying had you
Right.
just been given
But
the
this
loan.
also this
100%
also requires
correct.
people to
So-
start saving more. The saving rates in Florida and America are actually through the roofs right now because
There's a lot of cash on the
There's
sidelines.
a lot of
Well, it's
cash
but,
sloshing around.
But that cash on the sidelines is not at the in the demographic group that he's talking about.
I think it's increasing the couch surfing and the cohabitation and the multi-generational families.
We've
I
never
think
we've never had
I
so
think-
many
I think-
millennials living back at home.
Yeah, I think
it's
that's
the most
what
we've
you
had
got. Three
ever.
generations. You got kids, mom and dad, and grandparents all in the same house, paying $1,800 a month.
Well, because
Which
again,
between the three of them.
it's just we've been in this cycle now where about every 10 years we're having some sort of major catastrophe that has decimated the economy and forced people to go back into multi-generational housing.
Yeah, in the 2000s, it was the
Well, it started in 2000.
the internet-
the tech
it was
bubble,
the tech bubble,
then the
and
housing
yeah.
crash, now COVID, and
It's been almost, yeah,
You would
every
think that
decade we
would
have
be ready
something
for
that
this, so
throws
we gotta
ourselves
be ready
up.
for the next one, guys. No messing
Well,
around. Gotta
but
be
the
ready
thing
for
is
the
that,
next one.
and I think to bring this back around to the COVID relief package that we're talking about, is that every single time we have one of these economic downturns, all right, Democrats take more power and increase government, give handouts
Yeah.
to compensate for the economic, downturn, and what's left to do? I mean, the next time we have one of these economic downturns, they're just going to do a full UBI like you see on some sci-fi show.
So Hector's asking, do VA loans work differently? Well, VA loans are still fixed rate loans. It just so happens to be that you have to be eligible,
Right.
And then the only difference is that a VA loan, you can finance the VA funding fee, which is essentially their version of closing costs. So the only difference in a VA loan is that you don't have to put money down if you don't want to, which, is helpful to get people into a home, but you still have to have the income to be able to afford, the mortgage payment. You still have to qualify. I mean, those
Yep.
are, they're not like handing out loans to people with terrible credit. And then Holly says, my rent in South Tampa is more than a mortgage in West Chase. So I mean, if you know Tampa, West Chase is nice, So if you're, if
West
your
Chase
rent
tries
is
to
more
be
than a
South
house-
Tampa a lot of times.
Yeah, no, I mean, but those are two nice
It's very
communities,
true.
though. I mean, if
very
your
true.
rent's more than a mortgage in West Chase, I mean, come on.
Yeah,
I mean,
Well, South Tampa's old money. West Chase is new money.
that's true.
yeah.
I mean, let's just call it for what it is. So.
Yeah.
All right. So again, one of the other major pieces of legislation was HR 1. We've been kind of talking about this for months, and in regards that the Democrats realized that they had a huge opportunity in how they were able to modify the rules and regulations across the country to swing the election in their favor. Okay, and take that however you want it. All right, but that's what happened. They basically leveraged the pandemic to change the rules for elections, and now they're wanting to execute all those same rules that helped make them successful in this presidential election, and implement those all across the country. And that's really what this bill is at. I mean, obviously, they're trying to say that now you can't do a voter purge.
You can't
in
purge the rolls.
voter rolls.
Right.
There's no ID, no voter ID. What are some
Well,
of the other
here's
things that-
here's what I don't understand about all this is that, I mean, we need a lawyer present. I mean, the voting laws are the purview of states. So I don't see where the feds get to do all this, because if the states,
I think the courts
if
will
a
strike
state
it down
if a
as
state
well.
says no, we're not doing that, we're gonna have election integrity, we're gonna purge the voter rolls when someone's not responding and we can't locate them, and we're gonna do the right thing. And then what's gonna happen? I think what's gonna happen is this gets the Democrats through at least the next two elections, because what'll happen is that the elections occur in 2022. And what are you going to do? Sue? Okay, fine. If you can get a court to hear it, courts don't even want to hear these things anymore. And then you get the presidential election in 2024, okay, which seems like it's a long way away, but it's tomorrow. So when that election occurs and Kamala Harris is anointed president, then what's going to be the recourse? Are they going to sue again and say, well, the elections didn't go according to state law, and have the Supreme Court decide on the constitutionality of this federal law? The election's going to be over with, and the new president's going to be.
Well, this
I
is
think this
also-
goes
and-
through the
and-
courts a lot faster.
I agree. I think the courts are really hesitant to go through something like that when the actual elections are within that year.
That's what Clarence.
So
that's what Clarence
so
Thomas has
if-
been trying to say. He's been
if-
saying, let's handle this
if they're able
because
to-
we're going to have an issue in the future, and
Hence
they keep
why,
not handling it.
hence why I think it's going to be different this time around. I think it's definitely going to be heard this time around. I will say the idea of the federal government nationalizing elections is something that I am completely against. I think keeping our elections local is what's done. I mean, Florida still does it. Florida keeps their elections very local.
So
and
let's
we
bring
knew
up
where
this
we had
point.
to go.
When Florida
Why
says,
does it take Georgia 4 days to go through their
Hanging
numbers?
Chads was better.
Instead of us, when we get all of our elections resolved, everyone counted by 11 o'clock. There are huge problems with certain states and their election systems. I mean, you have Louder with Crowder giving the information to the election supervisor saying that the addresses are literally not there.
And
There's nothing there.
And they went there.
Is it, well, they could be on the 4th or 5th floor. No,
They
there's
went
literally
there.
nothing there.
They would have a guy. I remember watching that video, and he said that in order to prevent YouTube from removing it as fake or misleading, they would literally have the guy there and be like, show us the address. Yeah. And they'd be like, okay, so this is the address, and here we have John Doe who said that's the address.
Yeah.
I
think
it was like warehouses, parking lots.
It's fascinating that it has to go to that extreme. So I'm gonna say that I think we're gonna. I think
that's always been an issue. Actually.
It has, but I think some states have done a better job with it. Again, it takes a disaster like 2020 to show how relaxed these states have become. Again, I don't think, and there's more lawsuits coming. I don't think state legislators should be allowed to change election laws 4 months before an election. I think that was absolutely ridiculous.
Right.
And that's what you're having now. It's
it
HR
doesn't
1.
matter if the Supreme Court
they just turned down the last one.
Well, does it matter if the Supreme Court, I think, will eventually hear these cases, particularly when it comes to HB 1, but HR 1, sorry. But I think that certain states are going to be like, no, I'm not listening to that. And the FEC is going to have to take some kind of enforcement action,
Correct.
which is then going to be challenged.
Well, and again, but
so it's not going to be states suing the federal government. It's going to be the federal government attempting to enforce.
Attempting to sue the state.
Well, and at its lowest common denominator, again, as I said with the first topic of the night, this is about building the narrative for the midterm
Correct.
elections because they know they're in trouble. They are incredibly worried about those
Democrats
5
or
seats.
Republicans?
Democrats.
Oh yeah.
They're very worried about losing the 5 seats
Oh, yeah.
that are currently giving them that advantage.
they're going to.
And so they're building this narrative so then they could say Republicans didn't vote for the relief bill. Republicans are voting against your voting rights. Okay, and so it's all the Democrat red meat that they're just lining it all up for the midterm.
Between redistricting and Democrat policies, there is no way the Republicans don't take back the House.
I don't see
how many
no
seats
for them.
So Florida's expected to get 2 new congressional seats. So how many seats is New York losing? How many seats is California losing? Just right off the bat, how many?
Both of them are losing 2.
How many? They both lose 2.
No, California's losing more.
Sure, they're not losing more than
No,
that?
California's losing
Losing
3.
3?
New York is losing 2. Texas picking up. North
So,
Carolina's
all right,
picking
so,
up.
there's
Georgia's
5
picking up.
There's 5
Florida's
seats
picking
right
up.
there. There's your
That's
5.
what I'm
That's
saying.
why I'm
There's
not
no
worried.
way. I have no problem saying that we're going to take back the House. I think it might be I would want to say it's going to be a very large margin, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's something.
I think it's 2010 all over again.
Well, actually,
my
though,
God.
think about
Oh
it.
my
But
God,
think
red
about it.
wave.
The Democrat-led state legislatures in New York and in California are the ones that control their own redistricting.
Right.
So even though
But
they
there's
know they're losing seats, they know they're losing.
But there's
seats.
more Republican state houses
but-
who are redistricting.
I know, but they
than
know
blue
they're
houses that are redistricting.
I understand, but what I'm saying is that the Democrats know that they're losing those seats. So what they're going to do is they're not just going to give it up and say, oh well, I guess there'll be 5 more red seats. What'll happen is you'll have more hotly contested districts in those states because the waters are getting muddied, right? They can't just easily make it red and blue.
Right.
They're going to have more seats that are going to get tricky for both parties. And so to Johnny's point, that just means that these election laws are going to be even more important to them because they're going to need all of this stuff. I mean, they're pulling out
In those
all
states,
the
yeah.
stops.
In those
They're
states,
pulling
yeah.
out all the stops to be able to win in those states.
To me, the most egregious thing in this bill isn't anything we've touched on so far, but it's the fact that every donation under $200 gets a taxpayer times 6
What?
to federal candidates. I read the bill.
Wait, what?
So
Explain that.
So yeah,
It's
so
a federal match. Every
Yeah.
donation.
gets a 6 times match for donations under $200. So if you give a federal candidate $100, the federal government will then give them taxpayer-funded extra $600.
And I mean, that'll probably stick.
Well, the federal
No,
government-
that's going to be a
the
Citizens United
Yeah.
test case. That's a Citizens United test case. Is what they're trying to do is roll back Citizens United within this bill.
But I'm saying that will probably stick.
I don't think it's going to pass.
No.
I don't think it's going to pass the Senate.
It's a public funding.
It's not going to pass. There's no way it's going to get.
It's an elections. It's a public funding of elections bill.
Right, which is what they want to try to eliminate some of the.
There's
big
already
ones.
public funding for elections, for
No,
federal
but
elections.
That's
Puts it more.
That's a match
That's
for
like
small dollar
The
donations.
thing is this though, because this is not a fiscal bill, there's no way that they're going to do reconcile if it passes the House and not pass the Senate with over 60. I don't see this bill passing the Senate with 60.
They're getting rid of the filibuster. The Democrats are not going to.
Well, they haven't done that
the
yet.
Democrats.
They have not done. They have not done that yet.
That's a new episode.
Don't just
Oh.
throw
Don't
that
give
out
them that
there.
idea.
They haven't
all
done
right?
it
Well,
yet.
not only
Just-
If
that,
they get rid of the legislative filibuster,
But they put it in there. I mean,
This
let's
is
remember
not-
they were the ones that put it in there, so they're hesitant to get rid of it because they were the ones that put it in there in the first place.
No,
and
they're
They also
realized
did that. They did that
They're-
for Supreme Court, like for judges. That's the reason why they have the 50+1. They have not done that for any
Sure, and they just
bill.
haven't been as savvy to leverage
Correct.
it.
They haven't done it for a bill yet, and that's why I don't feel that HR1 is going to pass the Senate, not with the way it's written right now. And I'm okay with that. I'm perfectly okay with the fact it's not going to go.
I don't know. The senator from West Virginia is retiring, so I don't think he's
but-
going to necessarily vote no.
But
Which one is
it doesn't
retiring?
matter. The West Virginia one.
Manchin's retired.
Manchin's retiring.
Is he?
He hasn't
I thought-
announced it, but if he's voting, he's been
Really?
voting. He's been voting with progressive policies. So,
But it doesn't
he's
matter.
not
They need
fighting
60.
anymore.
They need 60. They would need 9 other Republicans to vote
All
in
right,
favor of HR1.
so
They might have it.
They
you know,
won't have it.
So obviously, 2 big bills to watch. One
Yeah.
of them in the House, the other one coming to the Senate. Right? Do I have
The
that right?
COVID relief bill passed the Senate.
So right now,
COVID
the-
relief hasn't passed the House.
COVID release. Well, it's going back to the House for
It's going
reconciliation.
back to
remember,
the House for reconciliation, but
it's
it-
going to
but it
bounce.
has to.
It's going to bounce back at least
Yeah.
2 more times,
Right.
Because
But it
the
looks
House,
like it's going to pass.
No, the House is going to. The House progressives. I think there's 15 votes there. Have already said that they're going to try to make it force for the $15 minimum wage.
course.
So if they do
They already
that,
lost that fight.
no,
they lost that
they're
fight in
gonna
the
bring.
Senate.
They're going to
They-
bring it
they-
back. No, they lost it when they gave it to the Senate. The House is going to put it back in as an amendment, which is going to torpedo
thought
it.
they
And
lost that fight.
again, we might not see a check until either end of March or maybe even May, April or May, depending on how far this goes back and forth. It just depends on how bitter the inside Democratic fighting is going to get. And I would love to see a much more active fight because they keep on talking about how the Republicans are in a civil war right now, which I don't think it's that big of a deal.
Well, they keep raising the minimum wage, and I'm going to go sell tools at Ace Hardware. I mean, I'm just going to go to Ace Hardware, local franchisor. Hey, man, I like tools, and I like to help people, and I'm just going to be hanging out in the aisles.
Well, what I don't understand about the progressives trying to fight so hard for a $15 minimum wage is even a state like Florida has apparently passed a step up.
Well, not
to,
apparently. We did.
Well, we did, but it's going to take some time to get there.
And we'll figure out.
And-
And I have
2026.
Yeah.
I have full confidence that the Florida legislature is going to figure out a way to put the brakes on it.
Yeah, well, yeah, me too.
It's a constitutional.
I know, and we will
Well,
figure
well,
out. We've already started to figure out ways to stop people from doing that.
Well, they're
they'll-
not. They're not doing that. This legislative.
They're definitely
going to
figure out a way to do it.
So, but nevertheless,
That ship
if
sailed.
a state like Florida was able to pass that constitutional amendment, and most blue states have already passed $15 minimum wages, why is a $15 minimum wage required at the federal level when?
Because they're trying to do it faster. Number one, I mean, they're trying to do it faster. Like Florida's takes effect in 2026.
What's wrong with that? I don't understand. Like to the progressives of the world,
Well,
like,
'cause
please
not all
explain it.
states.
Because-
I mean, not all
because it's
states
not
are.
all sta-
Right.
No, yeah, but I'm saying like again, if most of me cares about Florida and about Tampa Bay.
You're
like
saying-
I don't
you're
care about
saying-
federal legislation that much.
because
You know,
what
and I
you're
would
trying
think
to
that
say,
someone from New York would
But-
care about New York legislation more than
But
they would
what
care
you're
about
trying-
federal
what you're
legislation.
trying to say
it's
is
a social justice thing to do right now.
Yeah,
is so that
yeah,
everyone
yeah.
gets $15
Yeah.
for minimum wage,
Yeah.
which is going to push everything up, which just means that
Yeah.
poor people are going to pay more for
It's
a lot
like-
of things, and
it's
they're
like
going to lose
the-
their jobs.
yeah, I
That's
mean-
what Democrats want. Democrats want poor people to lose their jobs.
What's their enforcement mechanism?
It becomes
What?
a wage and hour violation of a business, and you get penalized.
The OSHA?
If a business, no, it's a Department of Labor, federal Department of Labor
DOL,
wage and hour
yeah.
violation. If you don't pay somebody, then and you lose in that
Yeah,
complaint, then
right.
you have penalties.
Yeah.
You end up paying like I think 1.5 times or double what you owed or whatever, plus attorney's fees.
I always thought that the minimum wage was something that was state enforced, And
Well,
then
it
the
typically
federal
is.
minimum wage, was a mandate on the states that was funding tied.
Well, there may be funding tied to it, but
So if the states don't want the funding, they don't have to listen to law.
yes and no, because what the federal minimum wage does is say that whenever there's a dispute in labor law, I'm not a labor lawyer, but I own a business, so I have them on retainer, and I pay them to give me the answers that I probably could have figured out for myself anyway. But basically, whenever you have a dispute over a labor law issue, whatever benefits the employee is going to be the default answer. So right now, Florida, I don't pay minimum wage, so I can't keep up. I think Florida's $8.56 or something like that. While the federal minimum wage is still sitting at $7.25.
Right.
Florida's is tied to an index, so it creeps up, every year, every other year. At the federal level, it's $7.25. If the federal minimum wage, but if I was paying somebody minimum wage, I would have to pay the state level because it benefits the employee. If the feds go to 15, it doesn't matter what Florida's is. If it's not 15, then everybody's going to have to pay whatever is the highest of the two.
I feel
And
like that's
gonna
challengeable on a-
That's going to
on a-
happen. No, it's not. That's going to happen. No, because that's federal,
federal.
Department of Labor, and that's going to happen nationwide. So the thing is that in California right now, they don't really care because most people in California aren't making $15 no matter what. They're making more than that typically anyway.
Right.
Okay. But if you're if you work at a McDonald's and you're 15 years old or 16 years old working at a McDonald's in Alabama,
Right.
you're not making 15.
Which statistically has the lowest
Right.
minimum wage.
So
in
all
the
of
country.
those, so the states that are not there yet or are not close to there, they're the ones that are going to be
Absolutely,
like
just devastating.
overnight impacted. All
Yeah.
the kids get fired.
Yeah.
I mean.
Well, I mean, and we're even seeing it here, where now even Publix is starting to implement, somebody that we thought would kind of be the holdout, but even they're starting to implement self-checkout.
Oh yeah. That's
in
coming.
some of their locations.
I went to Lowe's the other night. There was not a cashier. There was not.
Yeah.
Now, granted,
then
it
some
was
of them
late,
are-
but it was later in the day, but there was no cashier.
The CBO has already said that if they pass the $15 an hour for the federal, they're going to lose about almost 2 million jobs. 2 million
Yeah,
jobs
yeah.
are going to kick up.
Well, and
but
then-
I'm sorry for cutting you
Yeah,
off.
yeah,
but
yeah.
in the comments section, I have to agree with Hector. I truly feel that their push for the $15 is because they want to shore up that Democratic base. So see the Democrats are getting you more money. See the Democrats are securing your
and
job.
it sounds good,
And
but
for some reason, we can't make the argument that they are the reason
Oh my
they're
God.
losing their jobs.
They're the
minimum.
reason why we're paying almost $3 for
But
gas
the
right
truth,
now.
the truth is, and Republicans do suck at talking
Messaging?
about these issues. Most people, I'd have to go look again, and I hope I'm not wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure that years ago I saw a statistic where only about 3% of the population
You're right.
were even making minimum
You're right.
wage. So, and here's the other thing. The overwhelming majority of those who do make the minimum wage are white, middle class, and upper class kids under the age of 25. So you literally are going to give white kids that live at home with their mom and dad that work at Chick-fil-A
Well, they're
more
not going to
money.
get no.
For
But they're
what?
not giving them a
It's
raise.
not
They're
gonna
not giving them a
benefit
raise
them.
because they're just going to get replaced by a robot. Then they're going to go on the government dole and vote Democrat.
Yeah, but white suburban women
But it-
like the idea of us increasing the minimum wage because they think they're helping inner city children
They
make
sell
more
it,
money, and
but
that's
they-
just not true.
They sell it. They sell it to the Democratic voters, but the fact is that most people this doesn't even impact in that regard. Now, the other thing I'll say about the minimum wage that people don't consider is that it does two things right off the bat. Number one, if you're forced to pay somebody a wage that you as a business believe is inflated over what you would have paid, then when you have the choice of who you're going to hire, a young kid who's trying to get a first job and get some skills and start moving up the ladder, or somebody who's 35 years old, knows how to show up to work on time, doesn't play around on their phone, and is
You're gonna have a skills gap.
and they're like, hey, I got kids, I need to take care of my kids, I need
Yeah.
a job, I'm going to be here, I'm going to do what you need me to do. The older person's
Well,
going to get hired all the time.
Well, that's what
Kids aren't gonna
happened.
Get jobs.
That's what happened after the housing crash. When so
Oh,
many people
right.
lost their jobs.
Oh, yeah.
You had professionals and adults going into
Yeah.
these minimum wage
Yeah.
jobs,
Yeah,
and that's
sure.
really where this big push for the minimum wage started all over
Yes.
again. Because now all of a sudden you found primary and secondary income earners working minimum wage. and they're like, wait, oh, this is going on,
Yeah.
like, and again, that
Yeah.
was never intended for it to be the primary
And
income
it's
source
never-
for
and it
a
never
household.
lasts. And that's another thing. You're trying to change policies which are not going to last with the demographics that are going to move there. Because
Yeah.
again, the market is going to rebound. It's going to start to relax, and people in those jobs are going to move up again.
Well, and
like they've done before.
second piece that's more, it's actually pretty invisible. You don't know it's not happening. Is it's hard to track, but all the jobs that you would have got but you didn't get. Okay, so you never know about the job that you don't get. All right, and what I mean by that is there's jobs that businesses would create that they will simply choose not to create.
Right.
So that's not a job that, I forget the U6 or number or whatever, U4, U6, I forget the federal distribution that they put out at the Bureau of Labor Statistics on the unemployment and who lost their jobs and all that. But the numbers that the federal government uses to talk about unemployment and jobs gained and jobs lost, those are things that get reported up. Well, here's what doesn't get reported. What doesn't get reported is, I was thinking about hiring somebody, but then I was like, screw it.
Right.
Like, that doesn't get reported.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's probably a solid
There would be
million.
no way to ever track
Nationwide, yeah, you can't report it. There's like 1 million jobs where business owners like me who are like, I don't really need to hire somebody for the office to do X, Y, and Z. But if I can get a kid to come in for cheap and do some things, and it gets them a resume, and it gets me, caught up on some stuff, maybe I do that, right?
Right.
But then when you artificially raise the minimum wage, you say, okay, well, forget that now. I'm not paying $30,000 a year. I don't need that. You know. So those are the jobs that never get created, and no one talks about that.
All right. Well, again, thank you to everybody for watching The Yard Sign, the most important and relevant podcast in politics. Joining me tonight, Joe Wicker, Chris Licata, and Anibal David Cabrera. Again, we obviously tackled some federal issues there, and we're not quite done yet. But just a reminder, if you don't mind, please like, share, comment on today's broadcast. Also, make sure to subscribe to the audio version of our podcast over at our tech overlords at Google, Apple, Spotify, Audible, and Amazon. We appreciate you so much for watching and listening to the program. Now we're going to kind of revisit one of our topics because it continues to be a major headline. In fact, the New York Post today ran with it, where now the top New York Democrat is asking for Governor Andrew Cuomo to resign. And so now he's starting to get pressure from the party because of the multiple scandals. And it's just been one thing after another. Of course, we saw where it was first the numbers, which is now, it's been verified that they intentionally hid the numbers from the public and from the media. And then, of course, now all the sexual allegations, which he refuses to apologize for, he refuses to acknowledge.
I thought he apologized for something, but I couldn't figure out what he was apologizing for.
He apologized that him groping and kissing individuals is just the way he's always been, and that
Well,
he
no, I thought that was
apologizes-
the greeting. I thought that was the whole,
he apologized
kiss on the
that
cheek greeting thing.
if it made people uncomfortable.
Yeah, he
that
apologized.
he wasn't doing that. It wasn't done on purpose. Something that the New York Post also posted about an hour ago, stating that the top lawyer for the governor's defense basically has issued her resignation, and is now an addition to the wave of resignations that have already started.
You know who's not getting accused right now? Mike Pence. Pence rule. He's not getting accused.
Which originally was the Billy Graham rule.
Yeah, it was the Billy Graham rule. Remember how they were making fun of him? This is the 21st century. You can't. What's the matter? What do you mean you can't be in the same room with a woman alone?
They're trying to paint him like some sort of weirdo.
Yeah. Oh, you're so weird. You can't be in a car alone with a woman.
We all knew Cuomo was a weirdo when he walked out in a white shirt and you could see his nipple rings. That was just offensive.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
If you want to Google that, please, by all means, don't do that. However, there's definitely video out there of Cuomo's nipple rings.
The governor.
I don't want to know
The
what
governor.
It's not the. It's not the younger.
It's
guy.
not the young one. It's the governor is wearing a ridiculously tight white shirt. Yes, Fredo. And you can definitely see what's happening. He's very excited for some odd reason. But no, over the weekend.
Well, let's just say anyone over 40 should not.
Yeah, I mean,
No,
yeah,
no.
Man or woman, I think.
I have to. I mean, you do you, boo boo. But I do
Not
think
if you're governor of New York.
Hey,
I'm
you do
not-
whatever you want,
I'm
but
not-
know what your surroundings are. You're giving a briefing about coronavirus. You shouldn't be wearing something so ridiculous. Again,
I'm not defending the guy. I think that they're getting a taste of their own medicine here.
I'm loving it.
So it's kind of fun to watch.
They were
but at the
considering running him in place of Biden at one point
Well,
last
but
year.
and that's
and
what
like
this is.
it's like
But that's
12
what
months
this
later,
is.
like
That's what this is. This is
MVP.
This is Kamala taking him out.
is
Okay,
that,
Kamala's
that makes
taking
the
him out.
most sense
Oh well,
I've ever heard.
this isn't Republicans doing this to him. This is his
Yeah,
own party
yeah.
doing this to him. They are taking him off the
The
table.
2024
They're
table.
taking him out.
Well,
They're
and the
taking him
top
out.
Democrat in
Oh,
New York,
wow.
the chairman of the Democratic Party in New York is an African American woman.
Cuomo.
Well,
I
and so the
Kamala
last I
doesn't
heard,
need that. Kamala doesn't need to do that. The only thing she's doing is slowly smothering Joe Biden.
The last
What
thing-
needs to happen, because what really needs to happen is
with
that
a My Pillow.
Yeah, with a my pillow. With a my pillow. What's
Wow.
probably happening in New York is the moment you saw the mayor of New York City, who is not going to run for another term, is started to bash, who is just as bad as Cuomo, started to talk crap about him. You know he's going to want to run for that seat. The
Right.
moment the governor's house is vacated, that's what's going to happen. I don't think he's going to resign. I think he's going to be impeached if things
I
keep
would
on.
really
Well,
like
we're
to
at
talk
we're
to
at
some-
four or five people right
I'd
now.
like to hear what some Democrats really think about this. I mean, seriously, because one of the things that he supposedly did was called his staffer sweetheart or something. And I'm sitting here thinking, well, now wait a minute. So my whole life in the South, growing up, going to restaurants, I had waitresses calling me baby, sugar, sweetie, honey pie, and all sorts of stuff. So they're all canceled now. I mean, like they're all gonna get
Yes.
fired now. I mean, like they all get fired.
Yes.
I was in
I mean, like,
I was
what's
in
the-
Plant City over the weekend. I was called honey at least 4 times.
I mean, what's
So I don't know what's gonna happen.
what is the standard?
In New York, that again, you see how
Well,
they've taken.
the
They've gone
standard
after
is-
Well,
themselves.
these are the same people that get offended if you open the door for them.
Oh.
Okay, like it's
Right,
just
yeah.
you know,
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
you know, because somehow that's being anti-feminist.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, and really quickly, I mean, one of the things we should have kind of had on our list for today, maybe we should have just put impeachments as our topic instead of just singling out Cuomo, is the fact that now California is pushing towards reopening because they are literally on the cusp of recalling Governor Newsom
Almost
in
200.
California.
Almost 200 million petitions have been signed. The
Unbelievable.
threshold is 20% that will get thrown out, and they are on the cusp. Exactly, they're on the cusp. Now the way that's going to go is because the Senate.
I think not 200 million.
2
What?
million.
2 million.
2 million. Well, they're almost at
Sorry.
2 million. No, it's fine.
Yeah.
I added 2 extra zeros. Whatever.
Hector says, watch Andrew Yang become the shoe-in for mayor of New York.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
gonna happen.
he's already got
that's already
that.
that's
Where-
already
that's
good.
already
was
happened.
He from,
He's
though?
got a double
Where's
digit
from
lead.
No,
Brooklyn.
he's from Brooklyn.
Oh, he is from there. Okay.
Yeah, he
when
was-
he ran for president, where was he running from? Was he running from New York?
No, he was
From
running.
Chicago.
He was running
Yeah, I
California.
thought it
From
was-
Chicago.
yeah.
He was
He's-
running out
I
of
thought he was
Chicago.
like a Silicon Valley.
He's wealthy.
I thought he was
is.
California.
He's wealthy
That's what I thought.
enough that he left the city during the
Okay,
pandemic.
so he's moved to New York,
But
and
he's
he's going
from
to
there
run for
originally.
mayor. And he's going to
He's
run
from-
for mayor
Yeah.
on UBI.
That's gonna be fascinating to see how that's gonna work
Would he
out.
be the first Asian mayor?
Probably.
Yeah.
The first non-Anglo-Saxon there.
Mayor of New York City. That might be true.
That might be true.
No.
Oh.
They've had I think they've had an African American mayor.
Hector, please
Maybe.
review and see
All right.
if,
Yeah,
if
this
we've
is where
had
we kind of reach
African
out to
American.
our comment section for some help there. You know, but
Let's
I
go
mean,
back.
look,
But let's go back to
but-
California. I love the fact because I don't think the Supreme Court in California has already said that they're only going to have one election. Because normally you have the recount, you have the
This is where it gets messed
yeah,
up.
where
Are
you
we
have.
talking about the recall?
recall, the
Okay,
recall.
the
I'm sorry.
Newsom recall,
So the
yeah.
recall.
Most states don't have that function.
Yeah.
Right.
Normally, what would happen in a recall situation is that the vote it would go on to be a vote to recall the governor, and if he got recalled, then you have another vote to elect someone else in to the chambers. But now in this situation, because it's COVID and everyone's changing their own election laws,
Just
you can only have
changing it
one
up.
vote. You're going to vote to say yes and a vote for a new governor.
Wow.
It's going to be fascinating to see
So
how
that
this
means
is gonna
there's
work.
no. So that means there's now a massive campaign. So what happens? Like all these. So once the 2 million are certified, because
lieutenant
they got to
governor?
get 2 million, right?
don't know right now.
Once they get 2 million signatures certified, which hey, are we using Are we using the 2020 presidential election certifying rules? I mean, I bet you they want those scanners tight now. I bet. Hey, that signature, we need to verify these signatures now.
I want thumbprints. I want signatures. I want purple ink.
They throw out
I bet you-
45%.
I want voter IDs. I want, you know.
I bet
all
you
of a sudden
Newsom's
Newsom's in
yeah,
favor of
I bet
voter
he,
ID.
I bet he. It'll be hilarious.
Newsom
if
comes out like
Newsom
Nelson
sues.
Mandela demanding voter IDs for everybody.
Again, it's going to be fun to see how
Well, where
this
do
is all
they
going to
stand on
shake
the
up.
2 million? Where do they stand? Because they got to get what 2
They're
million
1.9.
signatures?
They're 1.9.
They're at
1.9.
1.9.
And
They
they have
needed
until-
1.6?
No, they need
1.7?
like 2 million.
No. They don't need 2 million. They need more than what they generated
Yeah,
because
because
20%
they'll
will
decertify
get
some of them.
Right, some of them
Normally
will get
20%
kicked out.
They
You
need
do
so you're,
petitions.
so what do they need for certification? 1.7.
I think it's like 1.6.
So if
Yeah.
they get 2 million,
1.7
they're probably
certified.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they pretty much have it. But that just
Hey.
means it snaps into an
Hey.
election.
Getting
That
up-
doesn't
get-
mean that he actually gets kicked out.
So Newsom is now not cool with people going to Publix parking lot and
Right.
just going to the Walmart parking lot and getting
Right.
signatures.
Well, I wonder how many
Hanging
of those
out,
are.
hanging
Yeah.
out at the
Yeah.
gas station, bro. Don't worry about it. I don't care if you live here. Sign here. Here's a gift card.
I wonder
So
how
now
many
they
of
don't-
those are illegal immigrants.
Yeah, exactly.
Sign those,
Exactly.
Put
You
on
said
the
that?
petition.
I hope he gets every bit of this. I hope he gets to eat
Well, again,
every
both
bit
of
of
these
this
guys.
election
Yeah.
stuff.
I mean, both Cuomo and Newsom. I mean, could it really have happened to two better guys? I mean, it's just
Exactly. They're gonna.
Like two
I want
nicer
them to
guys.
eat it.
I mean,
Eat those election
7
laws.
months ago, they wanted Cuomo as president, and they
Right.
were saying that Newsom was going to be the next like chancellor of the West. It's absolutely insane how much, and I don't remember
How
the
quickly
word.
they eat their own.
And they should eat their own. Cuomo wrote a book in the middle of a pandemic or how to handle a pandemic when his staff was
capitalize on the pandemic.
was changing the
Hey.
numbers so they look better for the governor.
Again,
It's all
speaking of
horrible.
elections, a guy I know grew up with, Justin, is watching the show. He's in Atlanta, Atlanta, Georgia.
Nice.
I don't know if he lives in Fulton anymore. Probably doesn't, but used to live in Fulton County with me. But which they don't have recalls, so Kemp's safe, right?
Correct.
But now Georgia, we didn't throw that in there, but now Georgia's got this bill that has made it, I think, through both houses, right?
Correct.
And that's tightening it up. It's tight. They're trying to tighten up things.
Yeah, but it's also a little racist.
So,
The
what's-
Georgia laws are a little racist.
What's okay? What's
Not allowing voting on the weekends.
Well, how is
how
that racist?
I mean,
There's
I like weekends
In
too.
the
I mean, like,
in the Spanish.
well, I mean, if you think about it, you know, but you figure minorities predominantly are working the types of jobs that would require you to work on the weekends. You know, your lower wage.
that's not even where I'm coming
but
from.
he's saying you're not allowed to vote on weekends. What
Well,
would
that's
that
what
be?
I'm
That's what the law want. That's what the bill says in Georgia, that you cannot vote on the weekends. The reason why I call it a little bit racist is because in the Latin and Black communities, something's called
the Soul
You're
Food
talking
Soul
about souls
Sunday.
to the polls.
yeah,
Okay,
Soul
got
on
it.
Sundays, which is also something that the Baptists do
Yeah,
in
but
North
you
Hillsborough County.
you could argue. Yeah, but you could argue that there's way more.
But again, in Georgia, that is such a big deal in Atlanta and a lot of the other places that the fact that they're willing to pass a law that restricts people
well, you can
voting
vote for
on
like
Sundays
3 months now.
is really
well, you
inappropriate.
get to vote like
I
all
don't,
year.
I don't
mean,
care. Not voting on Sunday is a big deal in the Black and Brown community, and you're taking that away from them. And no one should have been able to. That should not have been passed. You shouldn't be restricting the days of voting. You should be requiring actual voter registration.
Anibal, we used to have one day.
Yeah.
There used to be, for like the entire history of the United States, we had an election day. And everybody voted on that day, or you just didn't vote.
Yeah, and
now all of a sudden we
and
act
in
like
our history, I couldn't vote because I wasn't white. Let's all get over this. You
Oh,
don't.
come on.
You don't.
You're comparing-
You don't
you're comparing-
restrict. You don't.
you're
You don't
you're comparing
remove.
election day
You
to-
don't remove days in an election cycle for people to be able to vote. You require them to show identification to vote.
So then you could
You're
just as
telling
easily.
me- you're
Okay,
gonna tell
that's
me
the
that
same
you
argument.
cannot-
Okay, so then so then if they rescind no excuse absentee balloting, are you saying that's somehow racist too?
I'm perfectly okay. I think it's inappropriate to require every single registered voter get an absentee ballot. I think that's inappropriate
same
because they're not
race-
asking
but
it.
the same race card gets
but
played on
that's
stuff like
having
that,
that's
too.
having a conversation of people being able to vote. You're taking away days for people to vote. Why are you doing that? For the sole purpose to not let people vote on the
No.
What
Hold on
is
a
the
second.
logic?
Okay.
But that's the thing. What
Okay,
is the logic to
okay,
not
well,
vote
I'm
on the
gonna
weekend?
give you some. First of all, What we have right now, at least in Florida, is we have a system where, and we have a pretty good system, okay? And we've been very progressive in Florida about how you can vote, okay? But we manage it. But the last date of early vote is the Sunday before Tuesday, right? Now in Florida, they're opening ballots, I think, 21 days prior to Election Day. So they're giving themselves the time to be able to be ready to go. Is why in Florida,
issues with the Florida system.
Okay, and I'm not so sure I like that either, but that is why on Election Day in Florida at 7:15, half the election to 2/3 of the election drop. The numbers drop in the system, and you know why? Because they already had the tallies.
Correct.
And then you have to wait for the precinct election data to come in from Election Day. Okay, in some of these states though, they were allowing people to vote right up until the minute of register just
Illinois,
correcting their ballot after the fact, correcting their ballot after the fact, and all sorts of craziness.
You're not building the argument of why removing days into the election cycle is beneficial.
Hold on. So you're talking about they're removing weekends from the early vote option.
Correct.
The simple answer, Anibal, though, is that, well, first of all, keep in mind there's a cost associated with operating elections. And elections are much more costly to operate today than they were in the past.
I highly doubt the cost is the reason why they got rid of
let's assume that
Saturdays.
has nothing to do with it. I mean, we just went through this fiasco, so I'm not suggesting that it's money, okay? But here's the other thing, though. And there are experts that on both sides of the aisle, the Democrats were never for this until recently, okay? They were not for this until recently either. The longer that you allow mail ballots to be out, the greater the chances are you have of fraud involving mail-in ballots.
I don't disagree with you.
And Democrats were never for this.
Well, he's not
in the past.
He's not talking about
I've yet to hear the argument.
He's talking about early.
So when you shorten the election, well, by shortening the election for all methods,
You're not shortening the election.
shortening the election time period for all methods tightens up the process and forces you to get your vote in.
You're not shortening the election. If you start the election voting a month before and just take out the weekends, you still have a month of elections. The reason why you're taking out the weekends is for if you can give me a legitimate argument of why they took out the weekends, then I'm okay with that.
However, it's already 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
the Democrats,
for like a month
this
and
is
a half.
this is a stupid landmine for Republicans in Georgia to be stepping on.
Yeah,
You're automatically taking away. First of all, it is true that many people that are in very difficult economic.
It's racist, but it's bad policy.
No, I think I said it seems a little racist because no one can give me an argument of why it's logical to get rid of the weekends.
I'm gonna throw something out here. Is it possible that government employees don't like to work weekends?
Very possible.
Because my whole life, weekend, so what? Like you got to work. I'm
going to tell you right now. I've worked very close to a lot of the people that work in the supervisor of elections in Hillsborough County, and they have almost a pride when it comes to working the election cycle.
That's here and that's
But that's
in
what I'm
Florida.
saying. That's what I can say here, and I've seen other people that have the same kind of pride running their elections.
I appreciate people working the election. I always try to think.
No one can give me an argument of why it's appropriate to get rid of voting in the weekend. If you can give it to me, then that's fine. But honestly, it looks racist, and I'm going to say it looks racist.
I don't think it looks racist. I think you're right in the sense that
impacts everyone. It impacts everyone.
Well, and I think it's
not
a bad hill to die.
Everyone can't.
I think
vote
it's a very stupid hill to die on for Republicans to be able to take that away because there's no legitimate reason to do it.
I think the solution to all of this is that you make it a
Jeffrey
national.
said. Jeffrey
make it a national
says
holiday.
he thinks it's a good policy. Jeffrey
you make it a national. You make Election Day a national holiday, and
to
then
remove
cut
the
back,
excuse. To
right?
remove
And
the
then
excuse.
cut back, and then you can cut back early voting. You can cut back.
Hold on. With that though, is we come back around to our first topic, right? In HR 1, I believe it's spelling out a lot of federal mandates for election law. So no matter what Georgia does, they might be superseded by federal election law, and then you're going to have that battle out in the courts. And then even the solution of saying, well, it should be a holiday, it should be a no work day.
Right.
Well, that would fall under the same pretense of, well, you can't make it national.
Justin says if you can show us data that more minorities work weekends, then we might listen to that argument. I mean, I know there was a lot of focus on Fulton County and the majority aspect of that area of Georgia, But I would remind you, Georgia is not just Atlanta. Georgia
Right.
there's a lot of people all around the state of Georgia that wouldn't even consider themselves to be anything like Atlanta, or quite frankly don't want to have anything to do with Atlanta.
Right.
Atlanta's its own world, okay?
Yeah,
and
it's
then
like saying Miami and Florida.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I just, if the law is evenly applied, Anibal, man, I think we gotta be careful about talking about racism when the law is being equally applied across the state to everyone. To everyone.
No
I mean,
one.
you can already vote.
I'm
You
sorry.
can already vote.
I'm sorry. I heard this from conservative.
What do you mean not from anyone?
I've heard this from conservative black individuals in Georgia that fully feel that this was a target of their community because getting the Soul Sundays is such a big deal.
You think it's
in these
about
parts.
polls of the soul?
No,
I mean souls of the polls.
And again, my thing is this: is such a stupid hill to die on.
What
There
was-
was no
I have a
reason.
question.
but
I have a
that's
question.
fair.
Wait a minute,
That's
I
a
have
fair
question.
If you want to reduce the time that people are allowed to vote, then just remove the dates from when you start
I have
and
a que- I have a
reduce the
question.
time.
I have a question.
Making it to where it's no longer the weekend
What
doesn't make
was
any
soul-
sense.
What was souls to the polls when we just had one day for election day on Tuesday?
It's been
No, there's
What was
always
so-
there's,
what
there's
was
always
it then?
there's
What
always
was it
been
then?
it's been a
early,
it's
early
been a
voting.
it's been a we've had
Early
early
voting
voting.
in
We've
a lot
had
of
yeah
southern
we've
states
had
has been
early
okay.
voting
No.
to get rid of the
For a
Jim
long
Crow
time,
laws. We've
I
had
can remember when the only way you could vote by mail was you had to
In
either
He's
be
Florida-
not
out
talking
of the
about
state.
voting by mail. He's
oh,
talking about early voting,
Oh,
where you go to a
but,
poll.
Okay, but what I'm saying is that that's still a new concept. Yes, it is.
Not
Early
incredibly
voting is still new. It's not new, and I mean we've had it for probably 20 plus
No.
years. So I'm not saying it's new in that
I
regard.
think-
I remember before it existed, at least in Georgia, it was just election day.
All right, we're gonna have
Anyway.
to
We're gonna have to wrap it up there.
revisit that one. But again, thank you so much to everybody for watching. We're coming to you from the Bullhorn Bunker here at Bullhorn Communications. Thanks to Travis Horn, American Media Group, for allowing us to kind of take over their space here. We're having a lot of fun with all the props and certainly the beverages here on hand. Again, don't forget to like, comment, and share the show. And while you're at it, also subscribe to the audio version of our podcast over at Amazon, Google, Spotify, Audible, and Amazon. Let's go ahead and kind of bring this in for a close here, as we kind of like to end on a more of a local topic, and tonight it being more of a somewhat local, somewhat statewide topic. But spring break, Florida, right? Two things that are pretty synonymous. Anibal and I actually got to spend some time this weekend over at the Plant City Strawberry Festival. And rewind that even a couple more weeks, and we had, of course, an incredible Super Bowl party and parade, boat parade.
A COVID spreader party.
That's
is that
right,
what
the
you mean?
COVID spreader party.
A COVID party.
And despite all projections, whether it be Ybor City or the boat parade or any of these things, we saw no spike in cases here locally. Now, of course, that hasn't stopped the county commission and the city council from, trying to, act like they're doing something about it.
They don't want anybody to have any fun.
Yeah, but again, so spring break is going to spring break. I mean, the hotel rates have already doubled, for this month. They're already expecting, a lot of traffic. Again, hotels and service industry people that have been hurting for, now exactly a year, because we're coming up on the 1 year anniversary of the lockdown. And so again, we saw
The 1 year
Texas.
anniversary of 14 days.
That's right, the 1 year anniversary
Wow.
of the 2 week.
14
That's
days.
right.
It's true.
And so we saw Texas repeal the mask mandate, Mississippi repeal the mask mandate. We've never had a state mask mandate here in Florida. And so, again, does Florida continue to lead the way nationally in how to handle this crisis?
Some other states
or
have already set a date in like April. Some states have also set dates like in
Connecticut
the
too, by
future.
the way. Actually, props to I
Yeah.
can't remember, a friend of mine. I think it was Justin Hart, but who also called out Connecticut for repealing
They have
a
a
lot of
Democrat-
their mask
they have a
mandates.
Democratic
Yeah, exactly.
governor, right?
But of course, President Biden decided to single out
Yeah.
the Republican states,
Yeah.
for repealing those, and quite conveniently left Connecticut off that list.
It's really sad that
Neanderthal.
something. It's really
That's
sad.
right.
That it's really
Neanderthal,
sad
I
that
think.
things
Neanderthal
came
states.
political.
Neanderthal states.
I felt bad as a Floridian. I'm like, I thought we've been open this whole time.
Well, we
why
have.
were we getting
Yeah,
shit
why,
for it?
yeah.
President Unity
Throw
here
some rocks at
decided
us.
that calling us Neanderthals was the right way to go.
Well,
First
that's
we were
his vocabulary.
deplorable.
That's
First
his
we were
vocabulary when you're
deplorable.
200 years old.
Right.
So it's good
Were
that
you-
the
well,
hotels.
Well, Panama City was shut down years ago, right? So, right? I mean, it was, right? It
Yeah,
was
but that's
shut
for a
down.
venereal disease
It was
outbreak.
shut down years ago for spring break. So what's the hot spring break spot in Florida now? Is it South Beach?
Fort
Or
Lauderdale
is it-
still
is it
gets
Clearwater's hot.
Daytona
St.
Beach.
Pete Beach is still a big one too.
Daytona, yeah.
Daytona's still a hot spot. Panama City Beach is still
Can you
huge.
still drive on
Still.
Daytona Beach? Can you still drive on
Yes,
the beach?
you can.
Yeah.
I saw
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And also the Daytona.
Miami too. Miami's
the Bike
a huge
Fest.
problem for spring break.
The Bike Fest is happening in Daytona now. A lot of things
They
are
have a
happening this
problem.
coming week.
Just way too many people
Oh,
and
okay.
fights and
Oh, yeah,
traffic
yeah, yeah.
and crime. I mean, just spikes.
Yeah, but that's normal for North Cuba.
Oh my!
Is Mexico doing spring break, or are they? Doing,
Yeah.
Is it just crime? Is just
Cancun's
Allegedly, you can still get into Cancun without having to have a COVID test, but that's here nor there. But I have friends that are there now, and they didn't really need a test. They just needed a printed piece of paper that said
Non-contagious.
non-contagious. And
Well-
because it's in English, they couldn't read it, and
they
they
just
let
write
them
it
in.
on
that-
a
you
napkin.
can't-
I can-
I'm
I
sorry,
can do
it's
what I want.
happened.
Yeah.
Just write it on
Just
that.
fill out a hall pass from your local high school and then just turn that in.
That's
And,
So-
and slip $20
Right.
to the federal
that-
money or
well,
whatever.
that's a
Well,
lot.
again,
That's a
so
lot
the
of
bigger
money.
question is, especially for those of us here in Tampa Bay, we saw Gasparilla get canceled. We saw our St. Patrick's Day. What do they call it? The river.
I don't understand the canceling of Gasparilla. I do understand that it's a huge parade and all the debauchery and all that, and they're worried that people are so close together. But we just had the Super Bowl.
Well, I
Right.
think that's actually
I
what
don't-
caused it,
I
right?
don't get
Is
it.
that they saw the Super Bowl happen, and
Tom Brady had a good time. at the
right,
Super Bowl.
and after the
He
Super
had a
Bowl,
good time.
He doesn't remember it.
after the Super
had a
Bowl
good
party,
Remember that avocado
That-
tequila?
avocado
He went-
tequila.
It was good.
After the Super Bowl party, I think there was a lot of local, really woke progressives who just lost their mind and was like, "Oh, we can't do that over again. We're all gonna die," you know. And
How is that Gasparilla how is
the city puts it on.
No.
Right?
No, there's an
it's a
organization.
crew.
There's a
there's-
company.
It's a crew that does it, and they are very influenced
It's a
by
company
the
that-
city.
that organizes it.
No. There was a Facebook.
mayor says
group.
no,
No,
it's
there's a
not happening.
Facebook event like protest like
Oh,
we're
that's-
still having
that's something
Gasparilla.
different.
That
That's
was
something
something.
different.
That was a protest against.
Those are
Like they're
people-
still wanting to have it. Like,
Those
is
are
that
those are
happening?
white people wanting boats that are still going to do something. It's not that big of a deal. What I will say is this: I think the bigger problem is that
I thought it was a parade,
that the
not
city-
white people on boats and
It's going to be a boat parade.
Well, somebody's
It's
calling.
literally
I thought
gonna
it
be
was-
a
I
boat
mean, you
parade.
I thought
had
it was-
one idiot out there calling him Magarilla. You know.
Oh yeah.
Not Gasparilla.
What
Matter.
happened was that the city of Tampa basically shot too soon and decided to not wait for the science and for the reports to come out of the spread, the super spread
Right.
of the
That
Super
never
Bowl,
came.
and that never came. That we got that report last week, and just decided to cancel it and cancel multiple ones. Also, the children's parade, the night parade, and again, if you don't get the city's blessing to have the parade, you can't have the parade.
Just call it a political protest and dress up like a pirate.
Which is
Call
one
it-
of the
Call it
arguments
Call it
that's
Antifa
happening.
rally and dress up like a pirate. and
Ybor
be
is going to be so much fun that night.
done. Yeah, what's going to happen in Ybor?
It's going to be
It's
a
still
parade.
gonna happen.
They're going to shut down the street. And it's still going to happen.
Yeah, I mean the crews are officially not involved, you know. But I think the party's going to go on without them. I mean, we're seeing, as you said, there's a number of Facebook groups and pages going up for people that want to still party, and they're going to get together. And honestly, it's going to be a very kind of grassrootsy, like, you know, very local thing. But I think, you know, people. I think it's going to be. It's basically.
I'm looking excited. I'm really excited for it. I
It's
want to see
basically,
what
it is going to be a protest of sorts of an overreach of local
Yeah.
government. You know, and they're going to say, look, screw you. The science, you know, if you want to follow the science doesn't lie. We had the Super Bowl boat parade without any issue. We should be able to have Gasparilla without any issue. And so we're going to do it anyways.
I think it's just
don't
pissing
understand-
more and
I
more
don't-
people off.
I don't understand why they're canceling. It's almost become, what's sad about it is that when you mix politics and medicine, you get politics. Or politics and science, you
Right.
get politics, okay? That's what you get. And that's what we've got now. And it's almost like it's a virtue signal. Oh, look, we're canceling something
Right.
because
Exactly
we're
what it
being
is.
safe. I'm locking myself in my home. Look how smart I am. It's
And
just,
you can do
I mean,
that to yourself.
it's
How
become-
do you have
it's
one
all
county?
political
Yeah,
now.
but how do you have one county that's going to have 400,000 people walk through Plant City in that big event that's going to garnish so many people?
How did
and
Plant
have
City
that?
get to pull?
Because Plant City does what it
So,
wants
so
to
how,
do.
did, how did the Strawberry Festival go? Like, kind of just happen no matter what, and like that wasn't a
Because the
problem?
mayor has no
How's that?
control of Plant City.
But yeah, I mean, it's basically
That's
because
it.
Plant City government said we're doing what we want to do.
Yes.
And we're
Yeah, I
having it,
mean,
and we're
look,
having it.
and truth be told, I mean, again, we went out
And the
there,
county
and it wasn't
commission
just
did it.
adults. Like, we had kids with us,
Yep.
and some people were wearing masks, some weren't. But to that extent, look, I mean, I think that, again, you go there understanding that there are going to be a lot of people there. And yeah, it was weird and at times uncomfortable, being in among so many people because we haven't done that for so long. But everybody was having a great time. And, and yeah, I mean, forget it. The 6-foot rule was just out the door.
Oh, it was impossible.
What
But-
about the people showing the animals? What about the cows and the pigs? Were they wearing masks? Did they have masks? Did they put like little,
I didn't get-
cute little
actually,
masks on
We
missed
them?
definitely
that
did not
part.
make it that far
Yeah,
into
we
the
You know, they have
in
the big
parade.
farm sale. They have the big show,
So-
the
Yeah.
4-H.
So
all that. They put on the big show.
what the officials for the Strawberry Festival did was that they made sure that the pathways were a little bit wider so that people could be able to go out. There are more entrances and exits. Every 20 feet we saw a station to wash your hands and to sanitize and everything else. If you went inside a building, they were requiring you to put a face mask on
They
so
were
that you were
asking you.
inside. They were asking. It said the word required, which we all know that's not a legitimate
No, look,
thing.
and to be perfectly honest, and I'm not gloating here, but I mean, I literally lost my mask as I was walking into the fair, and I walked past 3 sheriff's deputies as I'm walking into one of the expo halls. Nobody said anything to me. I mean, had I had it on me, I probably would have put it on.
Yeah.
But I lost it, and I certainly wasn't going to pay, $5
Right.
or $10 for one with an animal print on it.
No,
You
yeah.
know, I mean,
You didn't want a big strawberry. You didn't want a strawberry shortcake mask.
Those
That's
were
right.
You don't want a strawberry
adorable. The masks for the Strawberry
Hey,
Festival was
Hector
real
brought
awesome.
Hector brought up a point. I mean, this could be it. I still think it's virtue signaling, but he's saying that those events got canceled because of liability. The organizers don't want to get sued by Joe Snuffy for contracting COVID. Now, the
Well,
state of
that-
Florida is going to pass a bill that's going to
Yeah.
give
Brandis's
businesses
bill.
liability. They're going to, be able to avoid liability
already
for
out of
that.
committee.
But is that really? Is that? I mean,
No,
is
that's
that
not the
really
reason.
it? I mean,
That's not the
Well, again,
reason.
there's
Is
a
this
company.
really a
There's a
liability?
company that actually organizes. It's called Event Fest, and there's a lot of people don't know. They think it's the cruise, but in reality, as far as logistics and
Yeah,
all
yeah,
that stuff,
yeah.
there's a company called Event Fest that puts on the pig jig, and then also the parade and the children's parade. For Gasparilla.
Okay.
And so yeah, I mean, I think they had to look at this and say, okay, do we want to make money and run the risk of getting our pantsuit off of us,
Yeah.
or do we want to just call it a loss and hope for
I
next
I don't think the liability, because the state has been very, very upfront about the fact that they're going to pass this bill.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And that
I don't-
there's
yeah.
not going
You
to
have
be.
to.
The mayor
You have
didn't give
to.
them permission. The mayor would not give them permission.
Right.
And if the mayor doesn't give you permission, you can't have the event.
You have to, because if you don't, you shut down all. You just shut everything down.
Yeah.
I mean, if a business is
And
gonna
there's
get
just
shut-
no way to control it. I mean, again,
Well, you can't prove
we
it.
saw the mayor and the city try to control this boat parade situation as much
Oh,
as possible,
and it
which
fell
is
apart.
scheduling it at the last minute,
Yeah,
right? Kind
yeah.
of like
Right,
just
right, right,
blindsiding everybody
Yeah,
with it,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then making it in the middle of the day when
Yeah.
the majority of people were going to be working.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so that limited how many people were actually able to join in. I mean, and I think it worked for them in that respect. Because I think had you had this at 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening, and let's say on a Friday, which is I think what happened with when the Tampa Bay Lightning won the Stanley Cup.
The parade was on Wednesday as well. The issue was that they
Oh, that's
went
right. It was in the
from
evening.
5 o'clock to 1 o'clock
Right,
start
right,
time,
right.
and that's what pissed everyone off because they couldn't get out of work. They couldn't get the kids to go watch what's happening on the parade fest. I think, and again, Hector mentions it again. Is there going to be a retroactive clause? I don't think that's the point. I think the point is,
I think it has to cover.
and-
it.
but that's-
It's
it-
covering
but that's,
COVID.
but that's
Yeah.
the thing, though.
So
I think it
it's-
probably will. But at the end of the day,
No,
as
I've
long
read the
as-
bill that
as
passed
long
the House.
But as
It
long
does.
as you're following CDC guidance, which means that you are telling people to wear a mask, You're providing stations to clean their hands. You're providing the people that are working at the facility adequate equipment to be able to protect themselves. You don't have that shields a lot of people.
Even if you're not, you can't prove.
It's
that
very difficult.
A person that dies of COVID or gets COVID can't prove that they got COVID at your business.
Yeah.
Because all they would have to ask you is, did you go anywhere else in the previous 30 days?
But we already saw this. I mean, we saw, for instance, and again, I'm sure they're probably one of the main lobbying groups behind this, but we saw Publix employees going after Publix because they contracted COVID, and I think in some instances they've lost a number of employees due to COVID because they were working.
The government?
They were working at Publix, you know.
Oh, right.
You know,
well, and early on, I think they have a no mask policy or something in the beginning.
I don't remember.
But
I mean,
it
I
wasn't required.
Well, I saw some people on a community group bashing Publix, saying that in the beginning, Publix was telling employees they couldn't wear a mask.
But
And
so
that
was
was-
the
No, I think
CDC
they were
in
telling
the
them
but I was
beginning.
getting ready to say, but
Yeah.
so was Fauci. So I mean, what are you gonna say? I mean,
well,
Publix.
no, and then there was the issue that because BLM, you know, and all the
protesting.
the
protests
protests
over
were
last
happening at the
summer,
same time, that Publix came out and said, no, you have to wear our masks. You can't wear your own mask.
Oh, okay.
Because they also had some employees that wanted to wear their own mask.
They wanted to
with political
identify-
messages.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
and,
Right.
you know,
Right. With political
Yeah.
messaging. Yeah.
And
Golly,
so,
man.
but look, in
we
all
have-
of this, I mean, you know, really, to summarize, kind of with all this COVID stuff, the biggest mistake I think I mean, I don't want to say necessarily the Trump administration, but I would, because it's the same people kind of running the show now, but Fauci and the Department of Health and Human Services and the people kind of, and the CDC, the problem is that they came out with definitive statements that didn't give them any wiggle room
Right.
to then modify and evolve as they went on. Again, we still don't know a lot about this virus, you know, and so, and as much as, you know, shout out to Noah Pransky, who now, you know, lives in New York City,
Yeah.
you know,
I see
and
commenting on your stuff.
yeah, you know, he came out, and even though, like, again, the COVID fatality rate in Florida is 1.6%, he came and added, yes, but there are a lot of people who are going to be permanently affected or long-term affected by the side effects of this. And I only mention that to drive home the point that, again, they still don't know everything that
And
they
that
need
is,
to know
and
about
that's
this
the
virus.
case, and someone else, I saw someone else comment on that post. That's the case fatality rate,
Right.
not the infection fatality rate.
Correct.
So when you talk about everybody that's been infected, and then all the people that you don't even know,
Yeah.
because they have to do the antibodies to determine how
Right.
many people were infected but never knew they were. I mean, it ends up being, you know,
Yeah,
I know
nothing.
we're not allowed to say it, you know,
Right.
flu. I mean, you know,
That's
you're
right.
not allowed to compare it to the flu. See, this is the thing. Like, we're a group of people that like politics. You know, we enjoy politics, but politics ruins things. Like, it has a tendency to ruin things. It's ruining science. Doctors, 2 doctors can't even host a program like this
Right.
and discuss COVID in a
Without getting
professional
pulled.
manner.
Yeah.
And these are doctors. They could be epidemiologists. And if they start to utter things like flu and make comparisons that are not denying COVID and its seriousness, but just having professional conversations, some 25-year-old at YouTube says, "Oh, sorry, doctor of epidemiology who's
You're
a
canceled."
fellow
Yeah.
and this,
Right.
that, and the other.
Right.
And you can't talk about this."
You can't
and they're shutting
contradict.
them down.
Right, yeah.
So politics is infecting sports. It's infecting
Yeah, but
medicine,
that's cancel culture. I don't
science.
think that's politics.
It's just infecting everything.
Cancel culture has become politics.
Yeah.
And that's the
because
bigger
because
issue.
what
makes
we
it
like
no
about
fun.
politics, what
It makes
we
it no
do
fun.
is that I think we're a group of of people who like to find truth. You know, to a certain degree, that's why we like talking about this, and we're trying to find
Well, and advocate and promote the values that we
Right.
believe in.
I just want them
Yeah.
to lose. No, I think what's going to happen now is
I
that
like finding the best public policy.
the amount of pressure that's going to happen in front of the mayor's house and of the others, because again, her fighting back against this is really fighting against the governor. Because you had the governor.
Well, the mayor doesn't wear a mask.
We
I
missed
don't
the
understand
governor in the Strawberry Festival by a few
yeah,
hours,
yeah.
and he wasn't wearing a mask. And this was in the middle of the Florida State Fairgrounds.
Well, he's just done placating.
He's done.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and it's actually worked for him because you know it's shown that, you know, again, he's willing to stand up for, for the citizens and the business owners and the residents of the state.
Well, Trump helped him get elected, and he's going the Trump route. He's gonna, from now on, when the media hits him with something, he's gonna call him out on it and say it's stupid, and he's gonna make headlines.
And he's doing a great job. Those
He's
press
gonna make
conferences are
headlines
great.
because-
Well, and he has the advantage, not the advantage, but he has the skill set that Trump didn't, which is he has the political tact.
Yeah.
To know how to,
Punch back without punching a baby.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
What did you say? Punch back without punching a baby?
Correct.
I have not heard that in a while.
Well,
Trump punched everyone. That's the problem.
But here's the thing, though. The Democrats, and unfortunately a lot of people in the scientific community, started jumping on DeSantis, calling him Death Santis and whatnot.
Right.
But here's the deal. DeSantis, is actually trying to follow science. And he was very, very early on. Like, very early on, he was having meetings and finding out, okay, what do we actually know?
Right.
And trying to make decisions based on science. But because he wasn't just knee-jerk reaction doing all the things that the liberals were doing and the left, the Democrat states were doing, they started making fun of the guy, calling him Death Santis. Well, now, jump ahead about 6 months, 8 months. Florida's, I think we're now ahead of 27 other states or something or 26 other states in that, when it comes to deaths per capita.
Per 100,000.
When we have more seniors on average than most states.
In every state except Maine.
Our-
Maine, which is, we
Our
are.
hospitals are not overwhelmed, despite the, every now and then there'll be a story out there. A hospital that's at 85% is not overwhelmed. They want to be at 85%.
But everything you're
most of them.
saying is pissing off the liberal media even more.
Well, it never came to
because that
fruition.
means-
The doomsday never
But
happened.
they keep
and now,
on saying
now
it.
DeSantis
but,
looks good
but
because
you
of
listen, But you listen to the media reports, like, well, the spike is coming. Well, there's more strains. There's
Yeah,
more this and
yeah,
that. Even
yeah.
if we have everyone vaccine, get the
it.
shot.
Oh yeah,
everyone needs to have the face
latest.
mask yet.
That's the latest. Don't think that because you've been vaccinated
The masks are
that
gonna
you're
go
going to
away.
be able to not wear a mask, not social. That you have to do all these other things still.
Yeah, and we've only been hearing the whispers of having a vaccine paperwork. The moment that becomes,
remember when
it's,
going
it's
to the
a
beach?
whisper.
Remember when going outside was considered selfish?
Yes.
And it was the whole
Oh,
stay
yeah.
inside saves lives.
Right.
Meanwhile, everybody's grandma's like, baby, you need to go outside and play, get some fresh air. I mean, going to the beach was the right answer.
Well, and again, scientifically, it's known that indoor air is far worse.
You have an infectious situation. Yeah, what's better, to be outside in an infectious situation,
And honestly, I think
or
that's
to
what
be
did
inside?
I think that's what did in New York.
It's
New
what
York,
did in
that's
New York. They
and
were
again-
stuck in their apartments, sharing ventilation. Everybody's staying hunkered inside
Right.
in their 200 square feet, studio apartment.
Sharing hallways. And,
Yeah, and so the whole building's getting infected.
We have been
yeah.
open for almost 6 months now, and the fact that our numbers are still lower than New York and California is absolutely ridiculous.
Sun's
That
good
tells
for
you that
ya,
this is all
the breeze
political.
is good for
and
ya,
the
blows the
fact
COVID
that more and more states are starting to remove their restrictions is just chipping at that wall that the liberals want to placate, that they want the power. How on earth is Hillsborough County going to keep the legitimacy of an emergency? I think we're still under emergency.
Oh, well, it's been emergency forever.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
it's not.
no-
how are you in an emergency?
Eventually,
if it's forever?
the county's gonna be like, look, we're having events outside of the city of Tampa. This can no longer hold water anymore, and that time is coming very soon.
Where Governor DeSantis deserves credit is that in politics, it's very risky to be early.
Yes.
If you're a leader and you see things a certain way and you believe you know where the organization or where the state, for that matter, needs to go, and you lead in that direction, that's actually very politically risky.
Yeah.
Okay, because you could get ahead of yourself, or the truth may not follow soon enough, and no one sees that
if
you
the
are right.
pandemic had exploded based on
Right.
those decisions, I
Yeah,
mean, we could be
right.
talking about
Yeah.
a DeSantis recall.
Exactly.
I mean,
Yeah. Well, you'd
Well-
have Nikki Fried, or you would have, what's his name coming
Well,
back
she
out
still
of it.
tries to throw him
Yeah.
under the bus every
So,
chance she can.
but
get.
She's
but
so
instead, DeSantis he had the guts, and he got the data,
isn't that,
and he made decisions.
At the end of
and
the
it
day,
worked out.
isn't that at the root of what being in politics is about? Right. At the root of all of
Well, it
this
should
is
be.
that
I mean,
you know,
sure, be a leader, should be.
Well,
But-
and I don't think there's anything. I posted this the other day. Is I don't think there's any such thing as a leader. There's only people who lead. And that's the kind of people that we want to elect into positions of power, who can make decisions.
The easy route for every politician was to say, shut up, sit down, lock down, stay home, don't do anything. Right? I mean, like, that was the easy
And
answer.
that was good for 30 days.
That was the easy answer. And America was actually on board, right? America was like, all right, you're watching Trump and Fauci and Dr. Bricks and everybody
I was
else. You're like, all
surprised.
right, so what are we doing?
I was
14
surprised
days?
we
I can
lasted
handle
as long
14
Well,
as
the
we
days.
worst
Like,
part is that Florida Democrats, and I'm calling out Carlos Smith, specifically, wants to then go back and disingenuously, criticize Governor DeSantis for the businesses and jobs that were lost early on in the pandemic
Yeah.
when they were
Right.
completely in favor
Everyone
of
was in
locking
favor.
down the
Totally.
entire
Yeah,
country.
yeah, exactly.
It's like your party was the one that wanted to shut down the entire economy.
No, it's
They want it both
stupid.
ways. They want it
Right.
both
And
ways.
Democrats-
because,
and
because
Democrats
a
think they
lot of the
can.
time, it's not about being a person who leads. It's about being right.
Right.
And what's great, I think, about the Republican Party and about the conservative movement is that we're not that concerned with, which is why I think we have, sometimes we have the policy arguments we had earlier in this show, is that we're not so concerned about being right. We're more concerned about, well, what is the right choice? What is the moral choice? What is the way to lead?
Yeah.
And
Well,
that's
the
what
thing
we
is
concern
that,
ourselves with.
and a lot of people, they always like, they always kind of scratch their heads when I tell them I don't watch, news television. I don't watch any of the news channels. I don't watch,
You're just on Twitter.
I read a lot, and then again, it's you take your outlets for what they are. I mean, you approach them understanding where they're coming from, and one of the outlets I do listen to a lot is NPR, and what I get from that is that you're hearing the perspective from other states, right? And what's crazy to me is, and we're still going to have some of this here in Florida, but is, and I don't want to go down another tangent, but is how far behind kids are going to be at across the country because their schools have not reopened or they waited way too long.
3 million
reopen.
kids nationwide
it's
are
gonna
not
be-
in school.
Yeah, the impact is going to be unbelievable. I mean, I'm fortunate where my daughter's school
It's the next-
decided to reopen on time in August. I think maybe a couple weeks late, but they decided to reopen
Does
and
the
have
left
been
care?
reopened.
Dude, there are politicians that I don't think care, and I think actually are perfectly fine with that if it helps them win elections.
Well,
Which
yeah, they'll
is
blame-
which is
they'll
my
blame-
whole point.
Locking-
Which is my whole
blame
point.
Trump. They'll
Locking-
blame
lock-
Trump.
No, the
locking-
teachers
locking
union.
down-
We are seeing how powerful the teachers unions are
Oh, yeah.
in New York, in San Francisco,
Yep.
in Illinois, where they're
Chicago.
able to they're able to dictate what the policies are, and not even show up to work and know they're not going to get fired. That is immense power. that
Look,
we're
if,
seeing
if they
from
can
the-
if they can get
from these
paid,
federal
right? They
employees.
want to
The
get paid
lockdown
without
was
necessarily
good
teaching.
politics. The lockdown was good politics because if you're people that are out of a job, typically don't re-elect the person that's in office, right? When people are struggling, they typically vote for a change, and so lockdowns were good politics, and
Yeah.
that's why it happened. And now that's why you see in a lot of ways you see Democrats opening up. I mean, they couldn't even wait a week. I think Biden was president for like 5 days when Cuomo came out and said, we can't do this forever. We have to open up. I was like, whoa, what are you talking
Yeah, but
about?
Cuomo did that because he was getting heat from the press about the scandal, and then Newsom opened up California because he's about to get recalled.
Well,
so again, that's
yeah.
all
Yeah,
politically
yeah.
motivated.
Oh yeah, no. All of a sudden, it's okay to reopen Disney in California.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Disney's been open for 6 months
6
at
months.
least.
6 months here.
Here in Florida,
Probably
and
Probably
Disney
been, like, the end of
publicly
summer.
said that they are moving a large part of their management and operations to Florida,
As they should.
because they couldn't operate under the circumstances
Yeah.
that they had to deal with in California.
Again, the ripple effects of all of this is going to be immense for the next few years. And I feel really bad for people that are in the school systems up north and on the West Coast.
They can-
that
they
have
can
these
vote with
big
their
problems.
feet.
And
They
they
can
are,
vote
they
with their
are
feet,
voting
and they
with their
should.
feet. Hence why I agree that probably there is going to be a housing situation, but I think it's going to be decoupled from the rest of the country. with
Yeah,
a
Florida
lot-
won't feel it the way the rest of the country.
Well,
will
and then
feel
the problem again for Floridians
Yeah.
is that you have people from the Northeast and you have people from these states where they're totally comfortable paying north of $300,000 for a house.
Yes.
Right.
Because that's still a bargain from where they came from, and that's where again, like the
Yeah, but they also bring the rest of their capital, right? So even if they're getting a deal on a house, they're bringing the rest of their capital, which means they
It
can
is
No, I
start
know,
a
but
it
they're
is
business.
beneficial,
inflating-
but
They
it
can-
does
But they're
harm
they're
locals.
inflating the real estate market.
They're inflating
and
the real
making
estate
it
market, but they might
unattainable for
help
most
the small business
Floridians.
market, or they might help they might invest in other businesses. a little
It is better that they
they'll
come
spend
and
their
spend their
money
money here than it is
No,
for
I
them to
understand, and they're
spend.
bringing their high wage salaries as well. I get that, but the problem is that if you're a Floridian and you're not making those northeastern salaries, okay, you're still not going to be able to afford that
Correct.
house because they've inflated the housing market so much.
Yes, but only on that one. You're only looking at the analysis from that single factor, right? The rest of the factor is that they're going to help the Florida economy, and
They will,
a rising
in
tide
they will in other ways.
in
but
other ways,
yeah,
right?
but
And
I-
that rising tide will lift all boats.
I don't see it impacting the average Florida wage. I mean, I don't see it impacting.
No, I think it does.
The Florida wages. No, because we're seeing some corporate headquarters moving into the state, but it's not. The jobs are moving here,
Right.
but not the corporate entities.
A lot of them are in
You know what I mean?
Texas, Arizona.
Yeah.
A lot of them moving into the states.
But
close
so
to
long
where
as
they're
the
living.
jobs are, if the jobs move, and the you have enough for the same reason that they will raise the price of housing, they will raise
Wages.
the wages because they'll demand those wages.
We'll
Hopefully
see.
not through legislation.
All right. Thanks again to these guys right here. Thank you again, Joe Wicker, Chris Licata, Anibal, David Cabrera, for joining us on the show today. Great, healthy conversation. We appreciate you for watching. Again, if you have an idea on what we should be talking about for the next show, be sure to leave us a message in the comments or reach out to us through any of our social media platforms. Don't forget to like, comment, and share this episode, and subscribe to the audio version of our podcast on Google, Apple, Amazon, Spotify, and Audible. The other thing we want to tell you too is now I just lost my train of thought, but we'll be back next Monday
On a different
with
platform?
plenty more to talk about. No, I don't think so. I can't remember what it is now. But we appreciate you so much for watching. We'll catch you back here next Monday night, 7 o'clock. It's the Yard Sign, coming to you from the Bullhorn Bunker at Bullhorn Communications. Thanks again to Travis Horn and American Media Group for having us. So long, everybody. Good night.